Daily learning.
The quiet she found. Back in the city, every day felt like a battle she hadn't signed up for. The moment she opened her eyes, the noise from the street below, the honking cars, the yelling vendors, the never-ending sound of footsteps rushing by, would crash into her tiny apartment like a tidal wave. She could never stop. She would lie there for a few moments, eyes wide open, trying to gather enough strength to face the day, but most mornings it wasn't strength that she found. It was emptiness, heavy and cold, like waking up wrapped in silence that wasn't peaceful, but lonely. Her name was Elena. She had moved to the city 3 years ago with hope burning so brightly in her chest that she could hardly sleep the night before she arrived. She had believed, as many people do, that cities were made of dreams, of possibilities waiting at every corner. But slowly, that dream dissolved. The city took and took her energy, her confidence, her laughter, and eventually, even her sleep. She had lost a job she once loved because the company downsized. She lost friends too, not through fights, but through distance and disinterest, as everyone got swept away in their own frantic pace of survival. And perhaps most painfully, she lost herself. The girl who used to hum while making coffee, who used to look at the sky and smile for no reason, who used to find beauty in small things. For months, she stayed, trying to push through, trying to convince herself that she just needed to adjust, that happiness would return if she worked harder, smiled more, pretended better. But the exhaustion became a second skin. There were nights she sat in her bathroom, the only quiet place in her entire apartment, hugging her knees and wondering when she had stopped feeling at home in her own life. And then one morning, as she stood by the kitchen window with a cup of instant coffee, cold before she even took a sip, she saw a bird struggling against the wind, wings wide, unsure of where to land. She watched it for a long time. That bird, desperate and directionless, mirrored something deep inside her. That same night, without crying, without panic, she opened her laptop and began searching for something else. Not a job, not another temporary distraction, but a place. A home. She didn't know exactly what she was looking for at first. She only knew what she wanted to leave behind. She typed in "quiet small houses near countryside" into the search bar and scrolled for hours, half dreaming, half hoping. It was then she found a listing, a simple photo of a small pale blue house with white window frames, a wraparound porch, and a tree that looked like it had stories of its own. It was in a small town 2 hours away from the city, not too far, but far enough that no sound from her old life could reach her. She stared at the photo for a long time, then clicked on it, and for the first time in months, her heart beat with something that wasn't fear. The house wasn't perfect, but it was enough. The owner was an elderly woman named Margaret, who told Elena over the phone that she was looking for someone who would care for the place as she had. "It's not big," Margaret said gently, "but it's kind. It's the kind of home that lets you breathe again." Elena didn't know what that meant at the time, but those words stayed with her. They felt like a quiet promise. Within 2 weeks, she had packed up her belongings, just the essentials, leaving behind the rest, including the weight she no longer wanted to carry. The morning she left the city, the sky was unusually clear, as if even the weather had decided not to hold her back. When she arrived at the little house, the sun was beginning to dip behind the hills, casting soft gold light over everything. The air smelled different, cleaner, almost sweet, and the silence wasn't heavy like the one she had known before. It was warm, almost as if the world was giving her permission to exhale. She walked up the porch steps slowly, each creak of the wood under her feet a small reminder that she was somewhere new, somewhere gentle. Inside, the house had wooden floors that felt solid and safe under her steps, walls painted in soft creams and pastel blues, and large windows that welcomed light like an old friend. There were small imperfections, scratches on the floorboards, a cabinet door that needed a little push to close properly, but Elena found comfort in those details. It felt lived in, as if the house had memories, but it was still ready to make new ones. Her first night there, she couldn't sleep, not because of anxiety, but because of peace. She lay on the bed with the window open, listening to the gentle rustle of the trees and the distant chirping of crickets. There was no shouting, no sirens, no footsteps above or below. For once, silence didn't scare her. It felt like being wrapped in soft blankets after a long storm. Over the next few weeks, she began to rediscover herself. Morning started with real coffee that she brewed slowly, just to enjoy the smell. She'd drink it on the porch, wrapped in an old sweater, watching the morning mist lift from the grass. The neighbors were kind and gave her space, but also greeted her warmly when they saw her. One of them, a retired teacher named Mrs. Lane, brought her homemade blueberry pie on her third day there and said, "You look like someone who's forgotten what sweetness tastes like." Elena cried a little that night, not out of sadness, but because someone had seen her, really seen her. She spent her days walking through trails nearby, planting herbs in the tiny backyard garden, and reading books she had forgotten she owned. Slowly, without even realizing it, she stopped checking her phone every few minutes, stopped rushing through meals, stopped waking up with a weight on her chest. It wasn't that the pain vanished completely, but it loosened its grip, softened around the edges. Her memories of the city didn't haunt her the same way. They became lessons instead of open wounds. There were still moments when she'd feel a familiar ache, like when she remembered old friends or passed by her unpacked boxes filled with things from her past. But now, she had space to feel them without being overwhelmed. She had time to heal. The environment helped more than she could explain. The air felt softer on her skin, the sun warmer on her face, and the rain gentler on the rooftop. She started journaling again, not to document productivity, but to empty her heart onto paper, to make sense of emotions that had long been ignored. The quiet allowed her thoughts to stretch, breathe, and untangle themselves. One evening, as the sky turned lilac and the world around her settled into that magical in-between space of light and dark, she stood barefoot in her backyard, looking at the stars beginning to appear. She smiled, not the forced kind she had worn for years, but a soft, real smile that came from somewhere deep inside. In that moment, she realized something that felt almost sacred. Happiness didn't always come in loud, bright bursts. Sometimes, it arrived quietly, slowly, like dawn creeping over the hills. Now, when people asked why she moved, she didn't give them the full story. She'd simply say, "I needed peace," and most would nod, not fully understanding. But that was okay. The important part wasn't that others understood her journey, but that she did. Her home in the countryside wasn't just a change of scenery, it was a turning point, a soft landing after a hard fall. A place where she could hear herself think, feel herself breathe, and start to believe again that life could be gentle. In time, the scars left by the city faded, not disappeared, but transformed. They became reminders of what she had survived and how far she had come. They reminded her that she had the courage to leave behind a life that broke her and choose one that mended her. Most of all, they reminded her of that little blue house, the one that welcomed her with open arms when she had nowhere else to go. The one that stood quietly and said, "Stay positive, heal yourself, and put yourself first."